Welcome to Cashflow Savannah. This is episode 19 with Mike Bucciatini. Chandler and I had a great conversation with Mike today. This is a very high level interview. You might need to listen to it a few times. Mike just knows a lot and he goes quick. So Chandler and I were trying to be very helpful and kind of slow him down just a little bit just because he's so smart. It's kind of hard to keep up with him. What did you think, Chandler? Did you learn a few things today?
Yeah, for sure. That was the first thing that came to my mind was I was like high level for sure.
Yeah.
And he knows a ton. But yeah, for some listeners, they're not that high. I know at least I'm not. I mean, I learned a ton today. So it's always good to talk to Mike because he loves talking about it. Like you just don't feel like you're annoying him when you're talking about it because he loves talking about it too.
He really does. Mike owns one of the local franchises for We Buy Ugly Houses. So he's technically a wholesaler, but at heart, he's a real estate investor. He loves to buy and hold investment real estate, and he's done a lot of it. And it's really an honor to have him here on our podcast. And I didn't get to shout this out very clearly during the podcast, but I make sure I tell everyone any chance I get, I did snake one deal out of Mike's fingers several years ago. I'm very proud to say that because he gets a lot of deals. But I got one out from under him once. So I like to make sure everyone knows that he is awesome, but I got him once. But other than that one time, he's way better at me at finding and taking down these off-market deals. So he's a really impressive guy.
Yeah, he is. Maybe you'll get some more deals from him here in the future.
Absolutely. So stay tuned. Next up, Mike Bucciatini. Welcome to Cashflow Savannah, Mike Bucciatini with We Buy Ugly Houses. We're so glad to have you. Before you get going, I want to show the audience I am wearing a lovely red shirt, and on the front it says something about Peach State Pride, but on the back, this is an advertisement for Little Wissy, Georgia. And my lovely friend Mike bought me this t-shirt because he likes to go to random places that no tourists go to and buy me the most ugly t-shirt he can find. And so in honor of our bet that I keep losing, I did wear a t-shirt that you gave me. So thank you. If anyone hates this color, you need to tell that to Mike because he would be so proud. That will make his day. He lives to make me look very ugly.
I don't want to make you look ugly, but I do like winning a bet.
Yeah, you've won over and over and over. I have to say this for our audience. I'm randomly talking to Mike on the phone and he had company in town. And I said, "Oh, what are you going to do with your company?" He goes, "Oh, tomorrow we're going to Hinesville." And I'm like, who takes their out-of-town guests to Hinesville? Chandler, have you ever taken an out-of-town guest to Hinesville? Would you even take an in-town friend to Hinesville? Is that on your list of top 5 tourist destinations? Chandler's speechless. It's bad, right?
I think his audio's out.
I don't think he's processing.
Can y'all hear me?
Oh, there you are.
Okay, it's in and out. Sorry about that.
Oh, sorry.
I was talking, but it's not picking up.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I was wildly entertained. So I challenged Mike to find me a tourist t-shirt from Hinesville. I said, no one goes there on vacation. And he went and found one. I'm still pissed about that.
And then I one up myself and went and got one from Little Wissy.
Little Wissy. Probably very few people in our audience has even heard of Little Wissy, but they do sell t-shirts there if you ever go.
Can I hear bets? I want to hear about these bets because I keep hearing Julie's like, "Oh, I lost a bet." I'm like, "What?"
I hate losing. I hate losing a bet.
Don't we all?
Yeah. Yep.
I think that's like the investors, like I don't know, your successful investors. I think that's their big thing. Like we hate to lose. This is a game of don't give up, you know? So I mean, if you've got to give up attitude, you're not going to do well in this game. So
True.
Like we all hate to lose. So we challenge ourselves daily to prevent that. So that's why I'm analyzing a deal that's 3 years old, because I think I actually have a deal that I can make work.
Nice.
So Mike, why real estate?
Ironically, I kind of grew up in it. I didn't even realize it. My dad, back when we moved from Brooklyn to Virginia, moved down to become a real estate agent. And for a couple years, he was real estate agent in the mid 90s, back when interest rates were, oh my gosh, 12%, 11%, you know? And so like when people say 7% is insane, I'm like, try selling houses when it's 11. And so that's what introduced me into real estate. And then growing up, my stepfather was a contractor, and he taught me a lot of the repair stuff. He actually did repairs on rehabs for other people. And so without even knowing it, I was introduced to this field. And it's kind of grown. I bought my very first property at 23. That was an estate. It was actually my dad's estate, and it was a crap show. It needed everything, but did really well on that, and I've kind of kept that going since the early 2000s.
Okay, so you mentioned your first deal. Can you like take us through that first deal? Like, where was it? Did you end up winning?
Absolutely. Yeah. So um, it was actually the house I grew up in. It was my dad's estate. It was in rough shape. Dad didn't take good care of it, and he was somewhat of a hoarder. So when I got out of the Marine Corps, the family decided, okay, we need to get rid of this thing and take what we can get. So I had a couple guys like us out there, and they were offering, I think, 15, 20K on this thing. And so I was like, I offered each one of my siblings $10,000 for their share. They would make more that way, because otherwise it was 5K for each of them. So I offered them 10K each, for the whole estate. That included everything, and they took it. Ironically, I worked out an owner finance deal on it that they took payments for the first year, and then I would have to pay them off. I put 15K into it, and this was in 05. I purchased it. 06, I put about 15K into it. And just before the market bust in 07, I sold it for $95,000. So
Okay.
a nice way to double your money.
That's how you get hooked.
Yeah.
That's how your addiction started. I can't believe your first deal and you were sophisticated enough to do seller financing. That's fantastic.
It was a lucky break. It was honestly, I had no idea what seller financing was. I just knew I couldn't pay my siblings 10 grand each today. At the time I just got out of the Marine Corps. I just started driving a truck, and I was making good money, but I wasn't making that kind of money. I was making enough where I could pay them each, $500 a month and not hurt myself. And eventually, I think in 06, I pulled a small mortgage on the property, paid them off, and had my budget for rehab. So.
Were you paying them interest and everything, or were you just
flat out payment?
Okay. Oh, you're a genius. That's the best first deal I've ever heard. That's fantastic.
I tell you what, like, I didn't realize, I look back at that deal, and I think every investor out there is like, I wish I had a deal like that again, because that was a phenomenal deal. No interest, low payment, 1-year balloon, and doubled my money after everything I was in. So it's like, yeah.
I'd take that deal.
So after the first deal, where do you go from there? Do you kind of go and spend the money? Do you get excited and go buy a new car? Do you kind of keep rolling it?
A little bit of both. So I bought the new car before I moved, but I moved to South Carolina. In 06, I came down to visit my brother in Charleston, South Carolina. And the day before Christmas, like I drove down, I left, it was Virginia. It was 52 degrees, cold, gray, rainy. I get down here, and the day before Christmas, it is sunshiny, 77 degrees. We go deep sea fishing on Christmas Eve. And he goes, Mike, you should move down here. So the following spring, I'm actually talking corporate, the company I work for, they had an office in Charleston, and they were looking to transfer people out of my division down to either Charleston or, at the time, post-Katrina, Louisiana. I decided I didn't want to be post-Katrina, Louisiana. That didn't sound like the place I wanted to be. I came to Charleston and bought my first property there, using a lot of the money from the first property. And then I rehabbed that, lived in it for about 5 months, and then took a job with the highway patrol here, moved to a rural county where I rented, and I rented my house out. It paid my rent and its mortgage. So did that for 3 years, moved to Beaufort, or 2 years, moved to Beaufort, bought another house, lived in that for a couple of years, moved to Bluffton, rented that house out. And in 2017, decided that I wanted to do something a little bit more sophisticated. That's when I researched the franchise of Homevestors, and we decided to buy in. Bought our franchise in January of 2018. Actually, I sold both of my rentals, used the money to buy my franchise and my first year funding. And it's kind of the rest is history.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about Homevestors, because not so many people are familiar with that name, Homevestors. I always say we buy ugly houses, but give us some info on that.
And that's what everybody knows us as. That's why it's our
Right.
trademark. We were founded in 1996. We bought, I think the last count is well over 140,000 houses nationally. We've got over 1,200 franchisees. It's the only franchise I know of where the more franchises you have, the better you are. We have 2 of them here in Savannah, but we would love to have about 10, ironically. It's the way that the model works. When you look at the numbers in these markets that have multiple franchises, they do phenomenally. But we're a specialist. We're a brand. We have rules that a lot of local investors don't follow, but we also that comes with some benefits. We get major discounts from appliance dealers and things like that. We get guaranteed lending from people that don't offer it to other investors. We get lending rates that are below average. We get a lot of benefits that people don't see in that franchise model. It does make it a little bit more difficult on some of the deals that some of these other investors can do that we can't. But we've learned to partner on some of those as well.
Did you get a lot of training with that as well? Because wholesaling is a very complex business. What was the training like when you first bought in? How did they teach you how to be a wholesaler? Did you have to figure it out? Like what did they add there as far as value?
Ironically, it's a little bit of both. They do a crash course on how to buy property. They don't tell you really well on how to sell it or what to do with it. They give you some rough ideas. They want you to build your own business the way it fits you. And that's one of the things I like about the franchise is they give you a model on how to pick up property, but they want you to do with it how you want to do it. Like they really do allow you a lot of leeway to grow the business the way you want it. I think the hardest part about learning that was learning, how I wanted my business to look. The good thing is when you're done with training, you have 1,000 other friends, literally, that you can call and ask a question to. When you really think you've screwed something up or you really need an idea, you've got 1,000 friends and you go, hey, or you put it on the page and you go, hey, I just ran into this. And trust me, across 1,000 people, if you can't find somebody that has run into the same issue, you really, and I've only done it once. I've only asked one time that I've asked a question that nobody could answer. And it was such a unique situation that even the attorneys here locally were like, we're not sure what to do. So it was a very complex situation. And I think that one's still in litigation on the other investors. So I don't want to mention that one. Somebody else bought it, thankfully.
So Mike, I want to ask, like, obviously finding the deal is the most important part of real estate, I think. What are some ways that you go about finding deals? Because I know you always have a deal coming to the table.
So we do a lot of marketing. So fortunately, we do have a national brand. When people click "sell my house for cash," we dominate that field in SEO. We also do a lot of mailers. I have no problem if I spot a house in the neighborhood that I like, I will go knock on the door and try to buy the daggum thing right then and there. I'm no kidding, have done that several times. It's very nice to walk up and go, hey, I can offer you X number of dollars and close. Oh, look, it's Monday. We can close 2 weeks from today. And so the truth of the matter is, I do a lot of the same stuff your average wholesaler does. I'm not much different. I'm out there on the ground. I mean, Julie knows this. I'm in my truck 8-10 hours a day, moving around. I'm always out looking at property. I'm always I tell people I look at 50 to 60 deals a month. I buy 2 to 3. It's volume based. And like I said, I'm looking at one right now that's 3 years old.
So I want to go back to the marketing. I love this because I haven't really got to talk to anybody about this, but for the mailing list, how do you get a list together that is not like just sending a ton of mail out to random properties? Do you have a list that's like very precise and you send it to certain houses? Like, where do you find that list?
So here's where the benefit of the franchise comes in. I have no idea. So our franchise corporation does that. They consider themselves a funding and a marketing company. Okay, they own no franchises. They will never be my competitor. Their entire goal is to make sure our marketing is the most effective it can be. They have a entire company that's dedicated to getting our mailers, getting our information out there to the best clients that fit our
Wow.
dynamic the most.
Wow.
So every
That's really cool.
advertising dollar I spend is the best spent dollar it can be.
And then that lead just comes to you once you get the mail and then you roll from there.
Absolutely. And so like that's where our mailers come through. And when I'm driving around, I add people directly to the list. Sometimes they'll be already be on the list and they'll get re-hit again. But having that marketing platform behind us, like I hear what some people have to do for some of these leads. Like I couldn't imagine cold calling. I hate cold calling and I've never done it. I would not.
Yeah.
I did it when I was in the Marine Corps. You have to cold call to recruit. And I remember calling 200 people and getting one guy to agree to a phone call. And I just don't want to. I got better
You'd
things
rather
to do.
knock 100 doors than make 5 phone calls.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting. What about your
I feel like that's why a lot
technology?
of people go to mail. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
What technology do you use a lot, Mike, to run the deals, run the analyses, find, what technology do you use?
So they actually provide that as well. We have a program called Value Check through the franchise. It analyzes the deal for you. It does your rehab budgets. It's super helpful. Like it's not perfect, but it's a really good program for getting you a really good idea of where your deal needs to be. I do my own analysis. I've been doing this long enough that I can run a deal. Sadly, some of these I can run in my head because I've done so many in some neighborhoods that I can just tell you, hey, this is the average rehab budget in this neighborhood. This is the average repair cost or after repaired value, and just go at it from that perspective. But I can the benefit of this franchise is I can run my entire business off of my iPad. So
Right.
it's phenomenal. The technology that they provide us, like when I first started out 5.5 years ago, the technology they provided kind of sucked. It was hard to work with. It was clunky. Well, over the last 3 years, they transitioned us to Salesforce. Maybe 4 years now. They've transitioned us to Salesforce, which is phenomenal. Even though I hate to use it, I now pay somebody, a VA, to use my Salesforce because I hate it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I'm not in the data entry.
So are y'all actually do you flip properties? Do y'all hold? Like what y'all do all of it?
I do. If I can make money on it, I'll do it. I currently am about to list a triplex that I flipped. I flip. I try to do less flips now. I prefer if I'm going to flip it, I want to keep it. I prefer the buy and hold game, and I prefer the wholesale game. The truth of the matter is, the flip to retail is not as fun for me. I don't find the fun in it that I thought I would. I like the big paycheck at the end; those are always really nice. But the thing I like the most is buy and hold. The house you see behind me is why. I bought this house behind me for $30,000 back in 2019. I think I put 35 into it, 40 into it, and sold it for 130K. At the time, the rent would have been $850, $900 a month. Well, now the rent on that little booger is $1,500 a month, and it's worth 220.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so I look at this house. It's why it stays on my background. It reminds me of why I want to hold more.
Mm-hmm. That's smart.
The buy and hold's always I feel like to get started, you kind of have to start with the wholesale and maybe a flip, and then you can kind of keep rolling to get some cash in pocket. Because sometimes if you buy and hold and you don't have much money, yeah, at first you're cash flowing like $200 to $300 a month, and then long term. So sometimes it's nice just to kind of take that chunk and keep rolling it until you get a big enough chunk to actually be able to buy and hold.
Absolutely. And so one of the jokes that they tell at the actually kind of the best advice that you're given at the training that we get is, you buy, you wholesale and you rehab until you have this pile of money at the end of the year. Go, what am I going to do with this? And you go buy a hold.
Yeah.
And you kind of roll through that process. You wholesale, you wholesale a couple, you rehab a couple, and truth of the matter is, I'd rather wholesale a deal that would make a good rehab to retail than anything else. Simply because I want to focus more on my hold program. So. But it does require a lot of cash up front. They do cash flow very little amounts the first year or two, especially with these interest rates. With these interest rates, I just saw one quoted out for a long-term hold interest rate at 10.25 the other day. With an interest rate like that, it's hard to make anything cash flow.
Yeah. Well, and I'm unique from the two of you because I've never wholesaled or flipped a property. I'm actually quite opposed. But may I say, the flip side to that is that it takes a lot longer to build your portfolio. And I would just save up my 20% down and then I'd buy a house. And I'd save my 20% and then I'd buy a house. And then once I got a line of credit, I would buy in cash and cash out refi so that I had the cash. But that cash out refi, even in the best of credit terms, it's not a quick thing. So it would still take me 2 to 6 months before I could buy another property again. So I agree with you. If you want to really build up cash or whatever, flipping and wholesaling is the best. But I'm with you, Mike. The thought of rehabbing for someone else it's not that desirable to me. That's a brutal way to make a buck.
And I've done a lot of them. I mean, it's, I average about 10 rehabs, 15 rehabs a year. And it's just demanding. It's a lot of cash going out, and then you got to sit it on the market and hope it gets what you're getting. I like the math I can do and know it's going to rent for this and my cash flows, things like that. I also like, if I know that somebody else wants to wholesale to retail, they're trying to build a cash pocket to do the same thing I'm doing. I encourage it. So I'll wholesale a deal to them. I make what I need to make right up front. They can make what they want to make, and everybody wins. I think that when you look at this business, the people that do the best at it, they tend to work with other people a lot. They tend to, because every now and then you're going to do something like I did in August and accidentally buy 5 properties. I try to buy 2 or 3. I bought 5, because the deals, when they come, they just, you got to pick them up. And now I'm working to get some of that inventory offloaded, so, I mean, that's kind of building that, that flow and that pipeline.
Yeah. So can you just when you say you can do deals in your head, could you just give us a basic of what goes through your head when you see some numbers? All right, I see it at 200,000, ARV's 350. What's the basic numbers that go through your head when you first see a deal?
So I'll give you Live Oak as an example. I remember when I first bought in there, we put an ARV on a house at 315, and quite a few people back then laughed at me because they're like, it'll never get that. It'll never appraise. It'll never sell for that. Well, we sold it for 365. I under budgeted the rehab by $25,000. But it taught me a lot about that budgeting process and how to work within that. So when I look at a property now, I know if I'm buying a 1,400 square foot house, my average budget right now on those is between 50 and 60 grand. Simply because, especially if it needs anything major, most of what I buy needs a roof, HVAC, flooring, paint, and an updated bathroom, updated kitchen. So, and I know that's going to be easy on the $100,000 or $50,000 mark. I apologize. To get to that point. I know that I used to be able to do a lipstick, flooring, and paint for 20K. I can't do that anymore because I don't do any of the work myself. I hire subs for everything. So I know that I budget flooring, paint, and the basics to make it retail ready is 40K. Now a wholesale will be different, where I go in and just clean it, fix the majors like an HVAC or whatnot and sell it with some cosmetic defect. Those will be different. I can do some of those for 15, 20K, but I don't do too many of those anymore.
Mike, how are you funding all this?
So I use a couple of different methods. I use some private money. I use some hard money, long-term funding, kind of a little bit of all of the above. I very rarely leave much of my own money left tied in the deal. But it's one of those that it all depends on the deal. Some of the deals, they work better on private funding. So that's part of the math I do. I add that into my calculations for costs. So that's all in my numbers up front. The adage of you don't make money when you sell real estate, you make money when you buy real estate is very true. I've made those mistakes where, I didn't budget in a power bill being $500 a month in a property. That was by far the worst one I've ever had, but that was the average power bill, because I'd never had a 3,800 square foot house with bad insulation, So these are things that you learn, to add into that budget right off the rip. And the pricing when people, I'm very open when I go to purchase a house and like, well, I thought you'd offer me X. And then I will actually show them my numbers. Hey, this is what I expect to sell it for. This is what I have to make it worth my time. This is what it's going to cost me. And this is what I can give you. This is the most I can give you. And this is why, and when people see the breakdown, when they see, I think my record budget on a rehab was $171,000. When they see that number and I'm like, hey, if you want to spend half of that, I can give you more, but when they see those numbers and they actually can see it laid out in a clean, professional manner, it gives them a different outlook. I mean, quite often, I don't buy a house the day I look at it. Most of the time I buy a house 60, 90 days later. My current record is 4 years later. That triplex I'm about to list was a 4-year deal.
Wow.
So,
well, and Mike, I've never seen you in analysis paralysis, and you analyze, what did you say, 50 deals a week, probably, or maybe a month? But as an agent who only works with investors, I work so much. I see the guys that aren't in analysis paralysis. They're buying, they're churning, they're going, but it's usually the guy with 0 to 1 properties. And that, man, they have to know every penny up front before they buy a property. And then they miss out on 30 deals where I'm going, you've got a good deal, but can you kind of tell us what numbers do you focus in on and what numbers do you just assume? Because there's no way every penny you're going to spend before you buy a property. It's impossible. So from an expert, what's your advice on that?
So mine is what my minimum margin is based on holding it. And to say I've never had analysis paralysis is hilarious, because I remember so many deals that I've lost to other investors, including the one to you. I should have offered them more right up the bat. I mean, I should have. I had an extra 50 grand in the budget, and I was like, you know what? Let's throw this number out there and see what they do. And they went and called you back and got the deal they wanted. And yeah, but if an investor tells you they've never had analysis paralysis, I think they're full of crap. Every one of us does it. We'll look at the deals we've got. We'll look at that deal and go, oh, it's a great deal, but I've got these things pending. We all second guess ourselves, but if I know that I say I look at a deal and I can make a quick 20K on it in 3 weeks, okay, even if I have to eat $2,000 or $3,000, whoop-de-doo, whereas if I know I'm going to be in it for 5 months, okay, I need to make 50, 60 grand, 70 grand on this thing for it to make sense. And that still allows me that leeway to take that risk, so it's that number. What I need to make per month is how I look at it. If I can meet that goal, and have a little bit of leeway, that's what helps me through that paralysis, because I don't look at it as it's going to cost me this much. I look at it as it's going to make me this much in this much time.
Okay. So this is where I'm going with this though, Mike, and you buy houses all the time, and there's no way before you made them an offer, you had 6 contractors walk through there and give you hard quotes. And I see a lot of people that they want all those quotes up front before they even offer on the property. Well, how much will the roof cost? How much will the HVAC cost? And I know, as a seasoned investor myself, you're never going to know all the costs. You have to overestimate that. But I know you're having to make a snap decision, and you have a probably good idea because you do a lot of rehabs. but knowing how rough the houses are that you buy tells me that there's a lot of unknowns in your rehab budget. So how do you overcome that in your numbers? You have to have some way of working that out.
So there's a couple ways. One, I like I said, I'm really good at. I was raised by a contractor, so I'm really good at observing the issues that a lot of people don't notice. I also know that on a 100-year-old house, we're going to open it up. The wood's not going to fit. There's
Right.
going to be rot. There's going to be termite damage. So I budget that. I budget those heavier. You know, a house from the 60s, I'm going to budget different than a house from the 40s and a house from the 90s. You know, I'm going to avoid any house from the 2000s because I think they're all junk, but I still buy them. I've bought several of them. But the thing is I also work with a very limited group of contractors. I have 2 that I use regularly. I'm about to add a third. I actually got to meet them after this meeting today to add a third. And so I know what their costs are. I know what the when I walk in and what based on what rehab my scope of work, what as a general rule it's going to cost me, plus or minus 10 to 15%.
But you agree you don't know everything going in.
No, you are good. You are taking a huge risk.
Yeah.
Because case in point, you don't know that your seller's son is going to come and burn down your shed. You know, I mean, there is so much unknown in it, and that has happened to me. There's so much unknown in this business that if you are worried about the unknown, this may not be the business for you because you're going to run into it. You're going to open up a wall and discover that, you know, it's framed 38 inches on center. I did have that in a house, you know. It's so like knowing these things, like understanding, like knowing the neighborhoods is key. It really is. Knowing what type of stuff you see in these neighborhoods. I mean, if you're an outside investor coming into Savannah to buy a property and you're not using a local guy, I buy a lot of their properties when they fail.
Yeah.
No kidding. I've bought multiple properties from lenders, from other investors that have tried to buy something. And the first question I ask them is, how much money are you willing to lose? Because they're going to lose money because they didn't use a local agent. They didn't use a local investor. They didn't use there's so many dynamics to this market that, and I've invested in other markets and they're not in other markets the way they are here. So just crossing a simple street like MLK or Montgomery wildly changes your numbers. So.
Very true. Well, and with rookies a lot, I keep telling them, I just go lose money. You know, most people aren't like you. They don't make seller financing with no interest payments. You know, they're going to screw up something, but everyone, in my opinion, they gain so much knowledge on that first deal. And my first deal it was not even a single, you know what I mean? But now I look like a genius because I've had it 6 years. And so, you know, that's always my encouragement is like, I understand you want to know every penny that you're going to have to spend going in. There's no way when you're getting to know a new market. And the best thing you can do is jump in. You know, we have a local investor who I adore. She comes to all of our Cash Flow Savannah meetups. And she had a property under contract that she loved and walked away because of the unknowns. And I said, I give you permission right now to go lose money on this house. Just figure it out. And she did. And she's now doing really well with it. But it's hard, you know, to just know that you don't know it all.
So one of the things I ask people when they're talking about getting into this field is like, I asked them 2 questions and it all revolves around 10,000 is how would you feel if you lost $10,000? Okay. And almost always people are like, oh my God, I don't know what I would do. I was like, okay, so what would you do if you lost $10,000 on a deal? You know, and those responses will tell me really quickly if you're even cut out to do this. Quite often, I think my favorite response, and then the one I like to hear is, you know what, that just means I got to go buy another deal. You know, okay, that means you're going to power through, you're going to learn your lesson, and you're going to go. And then I tell them to switch that. Okay, did you lose $10,000 or did you pay $10,000 for higher education? People do it every year at a college. You're doing it for yourself,
right?
So when you look at the ideas of it differently to what it is, it makes a lot more sense. You know, you can always lose. I mean, you can lose your job tomorrow. So do you fear that? Yes. But does it stop you from going to work? No. Same thing here. Yes, you can lose on a deal. I mean, I have. I think my record deal lost me $90,000. It hurts, but it's powering through, taking your lumps, learning your lessons, and moving on to the next one, and not repeating those mistakes.
That's really good information. But I want to go back on private money lending. How do you pitch to private money lenders? I feel like that's kind of the like really important aspect in real
Great
estate
question.
to want to scale.
So honestly, every one of them is different. Like, it depends on what their goals are. Like their numbers, their budgets, what their goals are. There are guys out there that will loan $100,000 with a 5% interest rate right now because they think 5% annually is good. They're not local. They are definitely not local. But these are guys that, will throw something like that out there, and, it doesn't harm them, but it's better than some of the rates they're getting on, their retirement accounts, or it's better than some of the rates they're getting on the money sitting in the bank, or they've pulled the money out of the retirement account because the market scares the tar out of them, and they'd rather have it making 5% than 0.5%. So and then there's others that, they'll do it at 12%. I mean, it all depends on that person's goals and their risk level.
So do you make the offer first, Mike? When you know they have money, do you say, hey, will you just do it at a straight 10% for me, and you don't even mention points? Or how does that conversation go when you actually pitch them like, hey, I need 50,000. What's your initial offer to a private money lender? If you really aren't sure where they're at, what's your initial ask?
So I need 50K. What do you need to make on that?
Okay.
What do you need to make on that?
That tells
Because
you
I'll
their
know right
level
then
of
and there if I
sophistication.
can work a deal or not. If they throw out, I need to make, $10,000 on it, I know it's not going to work. But if they just, and it's also based on timeline. Am I going to have it for a week, or am I going to have it for a year? And so it'll all be based on timeline. It'll all be based on I mean, there's so many factors that go into that. And you have to know what your plan is. If you're pitching an investment that's going to be a month, that's an easy one to get 50 to 100 grand for, because they know they'll get it back pretty quick. They'll get their interest. I mean, some of them are completely okay with just making the interest and no points. Some of them want the points and don't care about the interest. I mean, I've got one right now that if I can do it in 10 days or less, so anything I wholesale, he'll fund it for 2 points, and that's it. No interest, nothing, just 2 points. I have 10 days to get rid of the note.
That's a great deal for both of you.
Exactly. So he makes money, I make money, everybody wins. And that's the key with all of this. I don't care if you're buying a house, you're pitching private money, I don't care what you're doing. Everybody wins. Everybody wins. If it's not a deal, it's not a deal. You can't make a deal out of something that's not.
Just to explain for our listener, when Mike says 2 points, let's say he borrows $100,000, 2 points would be 2%. So he says, Mr. Smith, I need $100,000 for 10 days or less. And he gets 2 points. Mr. Smith gets $102,000 back. So 2% of the 100,000 he gets back. And I want to put this out there. And Mike, I'm sure you're aware of this. But I had a long conversation with a lawyer the other day about working with real estate investors. And he does like working with real estate investors, but he doesn't want to deal with wholesalers if they're hiding from the original seller what they're doing. There are a lot of guys out there that want to do these double closes, and I get it. It's an advantage to be able to use the seller, the second buyer's money to pay the original seller. So they'll close with Miss Smith, who's 100 years old, and then they'll use the money from the guy who's buying it from them. But if you can have a guy like what Mike's describing, to where they do a very short-term loan, and you say, Mr. Lawyer, I have 100,000 right here to pay Miss Smith, and then I'm selling it to Mr. Jones for 150,000 in the table next door. It gives the attorney a lot of comfort that you have your own money and you're not hiding something. You're doing exactly what you're telling Miss Smith, which is that you're buying the property, and then the fact that you're then reselling it to Mr. Jones. So that's a great way to get the lawyer involved, because some of these creative deals are difficult to get closed. You just have to have the right attorney, and that attorney has their legal license on the line, and they have to be comfortable. So that's $2,000, for example, is nothing when you can preserve the relationship with a lawyer, get any lawyer in town to handle it because it's completely legal and above board. And then you just work it into your numbers. And I know you've talked about doing that many times.
Well, and the thing you look at from that, here in the state of Georgia, it's actually illegal to do the old fashioned assignment where you don't bring any money. If you look at the law, it says that even if you're assigning a property, you are supposed to fund it. Technically, the lawyers that do it, do they get called up on it often? No, but they could. We don't do anything like that because as our franchise won't allow it. We don't do anything that's not above board. We would, I have done, I think I've done 3 assignments ever. And I flat out on each one of them, I told my seller, hey, I've sold the contract. This is what I sold it for. You'll still get your money. I'm going to make X. I'm very open about it because on all 3 of those deals, I had bought so many, I couldn't close it. And I'm more of a man of my word. I'm going to close your deal. And I'd rather make, a little bit and make sure my client's taken care of. So when you look at that, Georgia's also working on a law to basically ban the assignment without a real estate agent because of these bad actors, and we see a lot of it. I won't say that I don't have somebody that doesn't do them for me. I sign a contract, or we do a bunch of deals together, but he has no money in the game. He also takes a low fee because some of these deals are so good that I'm actually able to wholesale them off the minute I buy them. But it's what the law is struggling with here in Georgia is the fact that it feels like they're taking advantage of the unskilled seller. Right. Now with Zillow and all this data out there, we're seeing less and less of that. It's a lot harder for these guys to convince these people to sell them their house for $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 and make a $50,000 split. Though it's still happening, it's much more rare now. People with the internet have the access to more data. So which has made it a lot more challenging. I mean, the Savannah market is extremely competitive now because of that.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of backtrack and unbook. So when you wholesale a deal, can you explain what basically Julie just explained, but to like a second grader?
Absolutely.
I'm sure a lot of people didn't understand that, and I just want them to understand if they're a wholesaler and they kind of want to understand how it works when they go to close. Can you explain it?
So there's a difference between an assigner and a wholesaler. An assigner, they're never going to take possession. They're never going to bring money to the table. Okay. A wholesaler is going to actually close on the deal and then sell it again. Okay. So that's a key term to remember. Like an assigner, I'm going to sign a contract and I'm going to sell that contract. I assign that contract. With a wholesaler such as me, I'm going to buy the house. I may sell it 32 minutes later, which is my personal record. But I'm going to take possession. I will be somewhere in the title chain. I will fund my deal. I'm going to pay for my money and then sell it same day.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that's a big difference.
A double closing, right?
Exactly. A double close is a true wholesale.
Okay. That works. I just wanted listeners to kind of understand how it should work. And so that guy that's giving you 100,000 with 2 points, would he technically be considered a gator lender?
What do you mean by gator?
So gator lender it's somebody that does like quick transactions like that. They kind of fund a deal real quick and then they get their money.
Yeah, it's a base mortgage term.
One of the I've never heard of that term, but one of the benefits of that is I know I've already sold the contract. And I hate assignments. I don't like the dirtiness of an assignment. So I call up one of my hard money guys and go, hey, I only need money for 2 hours. Now, the reason I put a 10-day limit on it is it would not be the first time that I get to the closing table and the buyer does not show up. Okay. It gives me 10 days to sell that contract again. Okay. Or to come up with a second exit strategy, which I always leave a buy with 3 exit strategies. Wholesale, retail, or rental. All 3 are always on the game. I may do a wholesale, but I always have at minimum 3 exit strategies for every property because this has yet to be a perfect world.
Smart.
That's why you have to take that risk. You're taking a risk every time you do this. Just because you have a contract doesn't mean somebody won't walk away from $5,000. Julie can attest to this. I've seen that so many times. You think $5,000 is a lot of money, and people will slap the hell away because of the analysis paralysis. They got scared the day of closing. I think my record is The guy was at the closing attorney's office in the lobby and never made it on the elevator.
No
So,
way.
oh yeah. He called me from the lobby, says I can't do this, and he left.
Yeah.
And
it
then you get
happens.
10, and then they say 10 extra days after that for you to sell it again.
Well, on that particular one, I had a backup already, and I
Okay.
sold it the next day.
That works.
Yeah, and so like I always like, even if I have a contract, all the people that showed interest and I keep all that data, because I may call one of them back and say, hey, can you close this in 4 days? You know, I'll shave $5,000 off, because guess what? The guy just gave me $5,000, so I'll shave $5,000 off if you can close it in 4 days. You know,
Right.
and it's part of that deal, having that plan. A lot of people go in this going, I hope this will happen. If this happens, this will happen. You can't go in with the if. This is what I will do to make this happen. So having that strategy and having multiple exit strategies, I do have the benefit of being married to a real estate agent, so I know I can throw it on the market and see what the market does in a few days. I have, that as an added benefit, and so knowing that gives me a little bit more confidence. Also, the fact that I've done more than 60 deals in the last 4 years. You don't get to those numbers without making mistakes. You don't get to those numbers without taking those risks and screwing it up. And so by doing that, you get these contacts, these hard money lenders that know that you can perform at what you say you can do.
Mike, one
And
thing
another thing you have,
oh, go ahead, Chandler.
I was gonna say, another thing you have is just a ton of contacts too. Like, all your people, and as soon as that deal doesn't get through, you have 1,000 more you can just call, and it works out pretty quick for you.
Yeah, and I do have a pretty good list. And one of the things I do when I tell people that call me, I say, hey, text me your contact info and your buy box. And I have a spreadsheet, and I just, based on your buy box, I'm going to go through that spreadsheet and I'll shoot out tailor-made properties just for that buy box. If it's outside of your buy box and you've said open buy box, whereas you don't mind going outside of that, I'll shoot them to you as well. But if you've got a buy box, I'm going to stick to your buy box, because why send out a deal that you have zero interest in? If I spam you with a bunch of deals that you have zero interest in, eventually you're going to stop looking at them. We've all gotten those wholesale deals where we look at it, there's no money to be made in it. There's no, it's a 10-bedroom house that you have no idea what to do with it. You have no experience with, and you don't want it. So we've all gotten them. We've all gotten these things where we go, you know what? I'm not even going to look at your deals anymore, and so I try to avoid that. I want to have deals where I know it's a deal. I know you can make money on it. Same thing for me. If I bought it wrong, almost half of my rehabs, I'd say more than half of my rehabs, are because I either bought it in a margin that didn't make somebody else enough money, or I had a specific vision for it that if it would require a specific rehab. So,
Mike, one thing I wanted to touch on, if you're comfortable talking about it, but I think one thing that's very interesting about your story is that you had someone helping you with your rehabs last year that cost you a lot of money. And, you thought they were going to be this huge advantage in your business, and it turned out to be the opposite. And I think it's such an important learning thing for people, because, we have a lot of people that are trying to learn the market, learn real estate. And I have also lost money rehabbing properties. Like I hear you on that, but for you, it really came down to one specific person. Do you mind just kind of sharing with our audience what happened, how you discovered what was actually going on, and what you've had to do to rectify the situation? Because it's very important for people to be aware of things like this.
Absolutely. So the very first year I started this franchise, we only bought 2 houses, made really good money on them, got real confident. The second year I bought 7, so triple, that's pretty good. Third year I bought 16, Well, by the time you're buying that number of houses, you need to have a good contractor crew. The first 2 I did myself. When I bought the next year, I wholesaled most of them, and I did a couple rehabs. Well, by year 3, I'm not doing 15 by myself. I wasn't, not with the rate I'm looking at houses. So I brought on a project manager that at first looked like he was doing pretty decent. And I brought on a bookkeeper that on paper looked pretty good. When I early last year, I started reviewing a project because we got ready to list it. And for some reason, the budget was way off. I mean, we had budgeted 70 grand on this thing, and I was looking at my billing and showing that I'd spent 122,000 on this rehab.
Oh, that's terrible.
My accountant had this rehab at 79,000. And what they had done is they had taken some of the billing that they didn't understand from my contractor and just put it into a general repair budget line item in our books. So we had a huge amount in this general repair budget that wasn't tied to any property or anything like that. And so they weren't seeing the overages as they were happening. This was on a prior to sale review that we figured this out. At that time, I had teamed up with another contractor, and I tested him out on a project. And I said, hey, this is your budget. This is what we have for scope of work. And he came in over budget by about 18% on that particular project. But my guy was coming in at an average of 90% over budget on all of his projects. We had multiple projects go double budget in a row.
Oh.
And so my guy was he had personal issues going on that were so in depth that he wasn't paying attention to his contractors. He was allowing them to double bill us. And his job was to review that they had completed the work, they had completed it satisfactorily, and that it was ready for billing. We only pay on completed work. And he was paying them and then saying, hey, we have these issues with it. And they'd come back and they'd rebill us for that same work.
Yeah.
And he did that multiple times. This one particular house, we paid $29,000 to paint the inside and outside of a 2,300 square foot house.
What?
Yeah. If you look at the original billing, it says my accountant had it at 14.5, which was $500 above budget. Didn't sound bad when we did our weekly reviews, and all. It didn't sound bad to be 500 over budget for paint, paint and drywall. But when we actually did the review, it was double that. And that was the kind of stuff that was going on. So I started giving more and more to this contractor, and his budget started coming down. He'd come in a budget maybe 5-10%, whereas my guy's still raging spending. We actually ended up cutting his credit card off at Home Depot to stop him from spending, because we started noticing some of the billing was for materials we don't use on our properties. He was billing it to a property, and that item was not in that house. So it is a very easy thing to step off that effort level and not catch it quick enough if you have the wrong team in place. So since then, I've spent the last year and a half really busting it, hiring really good contractors that I can trust.
Yeah.
They know their budgets. They stick their budgets pretty well. If there's issues, we come up with a way to stay as close to that budget as possible. We just sold one a couple months ago. We came in a third over budget, 33% over budget. But we also made 26% more on the property than we planned on because of the repairs we did. So we've learned to balance, where I've made those errors in the past. We don't do that anymore. We don't even come close to those errors anymore, because I look at everything personally. I don't know if I'll be able to go back to I have my own cruiser thing again. I realize that I like to buy houses. I don't like to manage crews. So I pay contractors to do that. And it has become a much more efficient program for me to pay them their 15-20%.
Yeah.
And I don't have to worry about it.
Well, and I mean, contractor 101 cannot be said enough. Never pay for work until you have confirmed that it's completed. I mean,
absolutely,
that is a guaranteed way to lose money, is to write them a check without checking on it. I've done it. I'll never do it again. I'm with you on that. That's
everybody awesome. That's done this has done it. That's why they don't do it again.
Right.
And my problem is, by the time I recognized it, it had extrapolated across, I think, 6 properties.
Oh, Mike, I'm so sorry.
So it's one of those that it was the most expensive lesson I've ever had. It was one of the hardest lessons I've ever learned. But it's probably one of the best lessons. It changed the whole way I operate.
Yeah.
In a way that's been a lot more effective over the last year. In the last year, I've turned that around. I think that the truth of the matter is, it was something that it turned out to be a benefit because it changed my outlook. I'm now more about, hire the expert. I may know a lot about it. I am really knowledgeable about a lot of stuff. Hire the people that do the job well, do it in a timely manner, get in and get out, do what you do best. I was listening to your podcast 5 yesterday and realized that I just hired a VA about a month and a half ago that's local to the States. And it's been the best investment I've done. They've already got me a deal just from follow-up that's going to be, 5 years of their cost.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So you look at that and you go, okay, I would never even have gotten that deal without their follow-up. And now I've got 5 years of their cost in one deal. They do that 4 times a year. Imagine how much more you're making. Same thing with the contractor. I'm not at the project. I mean, I go to the projects once a week to check on them and call and talk to the contractor about status. What's our timeline? Are we on timeline? Are we on budget? And then I'm out. I don't spend more than half a day on Monday riding property anymore. I used to be at properties every day, a couple hours every day. Well, I spend that time now looking at properties, looking at projects, adding value to what I do best, knocking on those doors, following up with people, talking to people, meeting new contacts, networking. I mean, network is immensely valuable. I mean, Julie can attest to the fact that every now and then I call, hey, do you have a person that does blank? And she does it for me. She'd be like, hey, do you have a person that does blank? That your network in this business. I think that's why I'm so confident about against analysis paralysis is I know if I screw it up bad enough, I've got a network that can help me minimize that risk, and when you're new, you don't have that network, even though you have some of it. And you don't know what you don't know. You don't know that you can ask these people these questions. One of my people that I really respect and I really follow in the footsteps of, I run into him every now and then. He goes, "When I grow up, I want to be like you." I'm like, "Dude, I've been trying to be like you since I started." So, and we talk pretty freely.
Yeah. Well, and you learn in this business and any business, you need to cut your teeth and do a lot yourself and learn. But as you get up in the ranks, quit spending your time doing those things. And I mean, I used to take a truck to Home Depot and pick up supplies and all kind of stuff and pick, how many hours it takes to pick out tile for a bathroom. And I, like you, Mike, I now have a project manager that I trust completely. I watch, and my bookkeeper also watches. My bookkeeper is a shark. She watches every penny. And, but I keep telling him, my name is Julie. I don't care, Gates. I care about a ceiling fan. I care about the color of the exterior of the home. And I think that's it. He does everything. Just pick it out. I'm not going to yell at you. I'm not going to get mad. I'm not going to live in the property. I don't really care what the bathroom fan looks like. I don't care what the tile looks like, as long as it's not ugly. Like, you have to kind of let a lot of that go. But now I leverage his time and I save my time for things that I also enjoy. And I think you're brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
On that aspect, we have standardized all that. We have a standard backsplash. We have 2 options for backsplashes. We have 2 options for faucets. We have 2 options for floor type, 4 color. We have standardized it. We pick it all the first week of January, and that's our color scheme for the year. We have 2 paint colors. That is it. We don't vary from that very often, and that's how I also can avoid analysis paralysis, because I know what the paint's going to cost. I know what the tile is going to cost. I know all these things going in, because we choose it in January. January is a slow month for us. So I use that time to plan for this year, so, okay, this is what our backsplash is going to be for the year. This is what our flooring colors are going to be for the year. This is what our wall colors are going to be for the year. And, if you're only doing 5 or 10 rehabs, you can do the exact same thing in every house and nobody will ever notice across Savannah,
Are you telling your guy, I want floor A, and if floor A isn't available, then go with B? Why have 2 is my question.
Because sometimes one's not in stock.
Got
I don't
it.
care
Okay.
what color it is.
Okay.
Because
If you get
all
one
our
of this,
colors,
there's that.
all of it, yeah, all of ours are going to be complementary to each other. So it doesn't matter how you mix and match. That's
Right.
the key.
Okay.
Like if he can't get one, go get the other. If you can't get both, call me. We will come up with a solution. You know, but
Mhm.
you know, other than that, it's all pre-laid out. You know, it's an Amazon cart for plumbing fixtures and doorknobs and all. You know what? These are your choices. Pick freely. I'm not going to live in it. I want it to look good.
Yeah.
If it doesn't look good, my husband Daniel is our realtor, and you have him to deal with because he's going to be selling it, and he will call you out on something that looks like crap in a heartbeat. And so,
And Mike, you've touched on it, but tell us about efficiency. You are fantastic at being efficient. You and your Amazon carts and all of it. Just give us a 5-minute overview of the genius of your efficiency. I love when you talk about it.
I'll be honest with you, I don't feel that efficient.
You're very
I don't.
efficient.
I a lot of this is through learning the hard way, and a lot of this is another benefit of the franchise. I would sit down with these guys. I had one of my favorite guys in the company has over 400 rental doors, and when I asked him how he chose, this is several years ago, how he chose plumbing fixture, he goes, "I don't." I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I went on Amazon, I picked 3 out, and that's what our property managers know to get." You know, and that set off a light bulb. And so everything, like we've got a midterm rental, and that booger, everything in it is in a shopping cart. It says midterm rental shopping cart. We went and shopped for it once. I'll never go shop for it again. I click buy all. It shows up at my house, which there is a level when you get enough stuff from Amazon that they will call and check on your better health. I've hit that level apparently because they have called and checked on me. But it's knowing what you know you're going to need it. If you're doing one rehab a year, it doesn't really matter. You can go to the store and spend that hour looking at tile and fixtures and all that. I don't have that kind of time if I'm going to be looking at 50 to 60 deals. So what I do is I do the thing that I can do the most effectively. I can sit in bed at night and shop for plumbing fixtures when I'm bored and I can't sleep. I can change my lists, you know, but knowing that all I got to do is hit buy now, and it pre-orders my door hinges, my plumbing fixtures, my doorknobs, and I can send that list to my contractor. You know, if I change the list in the January, all I do is update the list. I send it to the contractor. He now knows what he has to order every time, you know?
You ship it straight to the property, Mike? Because I go back and forth because some of my properties aren't great areas.
So I don't ship it at all. My contractors have my list.
Okay.
And what most of them do is they ship it to themselves,
okay,
and then they bring it to the property as needed.
Again, efficiency.
Yeah, because I don't know where they're going to be in the project when they're going to need items. I let them dictate that. They have their timeline and their budget. They can dictate as they need stuff. It cuts me out. It adds an efficiency loop when I am not, they don't have to wait on me. You know, there's nothing worse than your contractor waiting for a week that something you forgot, you know, or a month.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so like adding those efficiencies, you know, is key, because if you know that I like this particular fixture, you know, we started using one on Amazon that I thought I'd hate, but we put it in a house, and I put it in every house right now, and it's popular. And so like we do that on that efficiency allows me to know what my budgets are, knowing that I'm going to pay $77 for a kitchen faucet. I'm going to pay $36 for a bathroom faucet. Each one of my doorknobs is $11, or no, I'm sorry, they're now $7.98. And so knowing that, I mean, our program, I can type our costs into our program, and when I put in, I need 11 doorknobs, it actually extrapolates that and puts it into my rehab budget. So you can do it in a spreadsheet, but gosh, I wouldn't even want to try to put that thing in a spreadsheet. But that's one of the things, knowing your materials lists beforehand. You know, I also know that I've got a different material list for a house built in 1940 than I do one in 1960. We're going to go with we have a secondary option. It's an older list we don't use too often, but it's got older doorknobs. It's got, you know, mitered doorknobs in it. It's got, you know, older features that do better in those older homes in Savannah. So knowing your project, knowing your scope, or having a really good idea. I mean, look at your comps. You know, if your comp has a high-end faucet in all 3 comps, find that high-end faucet at a good price, and base that off of that. So your comps are going to be key. You know, if you're going to comp it, and I just advised an investor on this the other day. If you're going to use a comp that has tile showers, but you plan on putting in fiberglass showers, that's not your comp. You know, remember that. And so you need to plan for that accordingly. And if you go in there thinking, hey, I'm putting fiberglass showers in, and you don't plan for tile, and your budget's going to be a lot different for tile, you know? And so that your budget's already, you've already screwed up your deal before you even started, you know? So knowing what your comps are. I mean, I know I have a pretty rough rehab budget before I even walk in a property because of that, because I can look at what I know that I mean, every house I'm going to replace plumbing fixtures, toilets, vanities, at least reface the kitchen, new countertops, and a sink. I can throw that all in there before. I'm probably going to replace the flooring. I know I'm going to replace the flooring 95% of the time. I'm going to paint it. So all this pre-budgeting is done before I even get to the property, you know, because I already know those costs. I know what to expect. So when I do that, that adds another layer of efficiency, because now when I'm talking to these people, I go, hey, okay, I can take this off because they've already done it. Like, they've already replaced water heater. They've already replaced the HVAC. I don't have to do that. Now I can move that budget around to maybe making these features fit better for that neighborhood. So.
Really brilliant. Thank you so much for
That's
your
awesome.
time today. It's been fantastic. You are a huge wealth of knowledge. For those of you that are local, Mike is almost always at our Cash Flow Savannah meetups. And if you get the opportunity, get 10 minutes of his time, you will learn something. And I'm honored to be your friend, Mike. And I just thank you so much for your time today. This was really great.
I really appreciate you having me. It's always great. You know, I love talking real estate. I can talk real estate all damn night. So, yeah.
We appreciate it, Mike. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
Thank
Y'all
you
have a
so
great day.
much.
All right. Well, thanks for listening today. Please like, comment, subscribe, share. We greatly appreciate it. And we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.